Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. After kind of a slow start, Old Man Winter is definitely on a roll.
This marks the second coldest February on record so far in Billings, and those temperatures definitely won't be warming up any tonight. Bitter cold already settling in out there. Bob McGuire joining us now. Bob, just how cold are we talking about?
We're talking temperatures probably single digits below zero in the Billings area. And as you were saying, it was a very cold February already. We still got another 10 days to go. So let me show you how we stand as far as cold Februaries. The actual coldest one was back in 1936 when the average temperature was only 2.7 degrees. Of course, this year we're at 9.7 degrees as of yesterday. And you'll notice in 1989 that we had 13.4. That was the third coldest. The fourth was last year at 15.8 degrees. And the winter of 1978, that was a cold one. Everyone remembers 16 degrees was the average temperature in February. Now tonight, this is the way things are shaping up. Clearing skies across Montana. That means radiational cooling will be cooling us down even farther. And so tonight in Billings, we're going to 8 below zero, 21 below at Miles City. It'll be like 20 below zero at Havre. Now tomorrow morning, when you're trying to start your car, the wind chill will make it feel like 30 degrees below zero out there. We'll have more in a few more minutes.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Well, these cold months put a lot of strain on people, especially those who do not have a place to go.
But the Billings community has stepped up in a big way to help those in need. Q2's Samantha Sullivan has more.
When the Community Crisis Center is at capacity, the Community Crisis Center has 18 beds and has a capacity of 45 individuals in the building. And on extremely cold nights, if they reach capacity, what they do is they will send clients to Billings First Congregational Church.
It takes some of the pressure off of my staff. When we have 45 persons in the building, it's very, very busy and it's very, very intense.
When temperatures dip below freezing and the crisis center can't take in any more people, those with the lowest level of needs are sent to a local church for care and a warm place to stay.
They are screened for low-level needs because we want to make sure that we're sending the churches our low-level needs persons and that we are keeping persons that are in dire crisis at the crisis center.
So far, 3 local churches have gotten involved, and all volunteers go through some basic training. Mats were donated to the church by the Phoenix, which is a sober living gym in town, and meals are provided through the crisis center to those staying overnight.
Sending them to the churches gives those folks that get to go, we're typically sending between 5 and 10, are able to go into a much more peaceful situation where they can actually rest and they can have, a listening ear from a volunteer.
Lisa Harmon says she's proud to see not just the faith community, but the community at large coming together to help those in need.
It's just been a great program to help the Crisis Center in the incredible work that they do to work with vulnerable populations. And so we are happy to be a part of the solution.
In Billings, Samantha Sullivan, MTN News.
And Sammy tells us the next volunteer training is 1 week from tomorrow. That's on February 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Billings First Congregational Church.
Well, 2 prisoners currently sit on Montana's death row, and a potential bill in front of state lawmakers could eliminate execution from their futures. Montana has executed 74 people in its history, and since the death penalty's reinstatement in 1976, there have only been 3 executions, the most recent in 2006 with murderer David Dawson. Dawson was put to death for murdering 3 of 4 family members who he held hostage in a Billings hotel room in 1987. House Bill 350 would replace the death penalty with a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Groups such as the Montana Innocence Project and ACLU of Montana support that bill, which is sponsored by Republican Mike Hopkins of Missoula. Members worry innocent people could end up on death row. They also argue the death penalty unfairly affects people from certain ethnic and economic backgrounds.
A person's chance of being executed goes up if they are not white, not wealthy, or not mentally sound. As I've said before in this committee, the only way to guarantee a fair system that does not put innocent people to death is to abolish capital punishment completely.
Former retired
opponents of the bill argue the state already has the ability to sentence murderers to life in prison without parole. Some also testified the only way to keep murderers from continuing to kill, even while in prison, is through the threat of the death penalty. Now, last week, Wyoming lawmakers voted down a bill to abolish its death penalty, which has only been used once since the 1976 reenactment.
Also at the Capitol this week, budget panels are wrapping up their first draft of the state's $10 billion two-year budget. The Corrections Department and Montana courts consuming much of that funding. MTN's Mike Dennison takes a look at those budgets and the bigger picture as well.
The State Corrections Department had a nearly $4 million cost overrun this year and asked for another 3.5% increase over the next 2 years. But a joint appropriations subcommittee examining its budget voted Monday to keep the biennial increase at 1.6%. Panel Chairman Matt Regier, a Republican state representative from Columbia Falls, said lawmakers hope criminal justice reform passed in 2017 will start showing savings in corrections.
It is an increase, not near the increase that was asked for. It's more in line with an inflationary increase. Yeah.
The panel also scaled back by almost one-third the $12.5 million increase requested by the Office of Public Defender, whose budget has been steadily growing since its inception a dozen years ago. Here again, lawmakers expect sentencing reforms could help slow this budget growth.
Once those bills start taking effect, it takes a little while for those to go, but the hope is then that ripple effect will hit out even to OPD and save in the future caseload growth.
The longer discussion on this item Monday was whether cities and counties should pay more to support public defenders. Senator Ryan Osmundson of Buffalo said local governments sometimes pass and enforce laws leading to more criminal cases.
There are some challenges that we have with ordinances being passed by local cities that are costing the state. And all stakeholders do need to have, as they say, skin in the game so that all stakeholders are trying to watch the costs.
The committee requested a bill that could change local contributions, but members said the bill may just ask for a study of the issue that reports back to the 2021 legislature. The panel also approved state funding for drug treatment courts in Helena and Polson. But this is just the first step in crafting the budget. The huge public health budget has its first votes on Tuesday, and we'll have more details on the overall plan later this week. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. Now the initial subcommittee recommendations go to the full House Appropriations Committee for a vote next month.
President Trump is back at the White House tonight after spending the holiday weekend in Florida. There were nationwide protests today against his declaration of a national emergency.
Tonight, CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand reports on what kind of opposition the president may encounter this week.
From Chicago,
big crisis, no racist wall,
to Pittsburgh,
this is what democracy looks like,
and Denver, there were protests on this President's Day after President Trump declared a national emergency.
45 is just a facsimile of every single dictator that's ever existed in human history.
Rallies were held in more than 100 communities across the country. Demonstrators are voicing their frustration. The emergency declaration will divert billions in federal dollars to help build a border wall. The White House says it will cover the cost with a pair of Defense Department funds totaling around $6 billion.
We should take action to disapprove of this excessive use of executive power.
The White House says President Trump will fight back against any opposition to the declaration.
He's going to protect his national emergency declaration, guaranteed.
The pushback includes political and legal challenges. California and attorneys general from 15 other states, including New York, filed suit Monday, alleging the declaration is unconstitutional and unlawful. And Democrats in Congress plan to proceed with a resolution of disapproval, which could pass the House and Republican-controlled Senate. But without a two-thirds majority, the president could veto the resolution. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
A group of Texas landowners has also filed a lawsuit against that declaration.
Up next on tonight's 10 o'clock news, an 8-year-old girl now being recognized for saving her dad's life after a Montana man went on a shooting rampage in California.
Plus, a Missoula robotics team is set for an international competition. Find out what these teens are geared toward.
And in sports tonight, a little blind fortune highlights Q2's game changers. Scott delivers his top 5.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.